everyone. Thank you for coming out early today. So, has everybody had their breakfast or something? Can we have a cheer? It's a happy Chinese New Year. Did you have a good year? Yes, well done. Thank you. So, to Rebecca and, of course, Richard, and to our esteemed fellow speakers, and, of course, to you, beautiful guests. And again, another special mention. Because of her, she's in fact, the pride of Masbate and of our country. My fellow kababayan, Masbateña, Miss Marife Zamora, to whom I had a good fortune. I swear it's the last. I'm sure yung susunod, babanggitin ka pa rin. Through Marife, I had a good fortune of meeting Rebecca and Richard, along with our two boys, in one of your New Year's celebration. And looking back, I was actually like, surprised. I said, why am I being invited into this very prestigious event? I'm sure there are a lot of other Filipinos out there, Filipinas who are more, honorable or privileged than me. But then when I got the invitation from Richard, it says something about I could share stories. And the theme was about the sharing, the caring, and being daring. I think every single description has already been done by all the Filipino women here, right? I think with all of us here. So with true humility, Richard, thank you so much. Rebecca, thank you for inviting me into this very prestigious event, which is, of course, the gathering of premier professional women all over the country and in Asia. Of course, I'd like to welcome as well the few good men around here. Thank you for coming over. So to begin my story, how did I manage to bump into Feng Shui? So as I honestly do not know how, is my slide working? I do not know how one put my name as the Feng Shui Queen. I don't know how it came about, so don't ask me how it came about. So to select a story or to come up with an information on how I started, I want to bring you back to my humble beginnings. And whenever I think of these things, it really led me to tears. Because this is the truth. And this is where I came from. So this is our little home in Masbate. There are, in fact, 14 of us. 2 died when they were so young, and there were 12 of us cramped in that little house. So this is my old family photo. As you can see, I encircled myself there. So yung buhok ko dati pa talagang buhagag na siya. And then being in a family of a very big family, my father was a military man. So obviously, every time he comes home, my mother is pregnant. So, and then they imposed this policy that no one can ever get married unless you sponsor or support the younger siblings. I get lucky because I was the 10th. I was baby number 10. Now, looking back, I would be given an allowance, which is 25 pesos a week. And we would be boiling bananas, saba bananas, for our baon. That's for our snacks for the school. And then, I think at that time, the Notriban being, sold in our schools, public school, is about 25 centavos, right? And in fact, it's the best thing that ever happened to me at that time. The milk and the Notriban. I mean, I'm sure that's why I support Mayor Esco Moreno to please bring back the Notriban, because it was really, really nice. And it was very tasty. So, and then I was just thinking like, oh my God, before my life in Cebu, sabi ko, wow, I really managed. Can you imagine 25 pesos a week? And then now, I don't know where the 25 pesos can go, right? So anyway, fast forward, I moved to Cebu for my education. And then I got married early at the age of 23. I was fortunate enough to land a job in an Australian aid agency for about 6 years. So I was like the project manager then. So I was dealing with some Australians, British nationals at the time. And then it was really a very, very successful career. So, but then another tragedy strikes in my life. My mother was caught in an accident. The boat that was caught on fire, and my mom was one of the casualty. And then I was left, I was a single mother of 3 at that time. So life was very difficult. But then, I just keep persevering. Determination is key because, what's going to happen to me? I have 3 small kids, who's going to look after them and everything. So when I was doing that as well at the same time, I would always look back and say, okay, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to bring my kids in the future. And then I always, whenever I had to take my kids for a vacation, we would only rule out a banig that we had to use. We had to sleep on the floor. A banig is, I'm sure everybody knows a banig, right? So we had to roll out the banig, put it on the floor, that's where we're going to sleep. But for me, because I already had a baby at that time, I had to sleep in that very hard piece of wood. And then, you know what? After 25 years, actually just 2 years ago, I called my sisters. I said, hey, you know what? That piece of sala is very special to me. So I want it back here in Manila. So I had to transport it here in Manila. And right now, it's in my house here in Manila. The same thing, I did not change the color because it exactly was my bed. And because of that bed, I told myself, I will never, never allow my kids to experience what I had to go through. So anyways, going back, I had to go back to Cebu, and then I get through with the incident of my mother. I was annulled. I had 3 small kids. I moved to Manila. My Australian bosses then had a business in Manila, and they were so kind enough to offer me the job at the Pacific Star. So I was running a business center. This is before Regis came. It was the business center of that time. So I was running about 2 offices, about 100 people. And then because I learned so much from my Australian mentors how to do Feng Shui with this New Idea magazine, so I had to read that and apply Feng Shui. And then of course, I had been doing it to apply it to face my wealth direction, face it even when I sleep, to point it to my head direction for my love and career. And I had to put all this pampaswerte, the Mandarin ducks for love and marriage. I'm gonna find one for you, Jane. So to anyone here who wants some love enhancers, you let me know. And of course, even when I do my speaking engagement, I make sure that I have to face my lucky direction. That's the reason why I was here ahead of time, to already get the direction of this stage. So nonetheless, these are my 3 small kids then. Kirk was the one on your right, is about 5-year-old then, and Kevin is 4, and Shannon was about 2 years old at the time. And then because of Feng Shui, which is, I think my time is about to run out. Because of Feng Shui, I found my love. You can actually Google it how. Another story came out on Glowset magazine about how I found my husband. But I have to tell you this. I found my husband through Feng Shui. I will not get you the details, but later. So I found my husband through Feng Shui, yes. The business center that I was working on, there's a lot of expats going there all the time. So when I was doing my, my career was flourishing, my bosses was so kind enough to sponsor and support my studies to finish my MBA at Ateneo. So I said, okay, I have all these things now coming good to me. Now I want to enhance my love life. So now I found my love. And then I said to him, I'm not special. I have 3 kids. And he said, you know what? Whether you have none or 50 kids, I still love you the same. Haba ng haircut that time. So like, oh my God, Feng Shui really works, you know? So anyways, he took us to England, introduced us to his parents with my 3 kids, and then in one of our trips to Covent Garden in a Chinatown, I found this book called The Complete Illustrated Guide into Feng Shui. When I opened the book, it has the face of Philippine President Ramos, interviewed by the Reuters press agency, saying that he he agreed to the advice of the Feng Shui masters to cut the 2 trees flanking Malacanang because of the energy. And it's also in that book stated why the Philippine 500 peso bill was very inauspicious to the country, because it has 13 people, 13 stars, and the number 500 appeared 13 times. And I said, oh my God, Franz is seeing this in London, you know, so this must really be like, you know, Feng Shui calling for me. Anyway, fast forward to present, you know, in early 2000, we got married. And then in one of our trips to Hawaii, there was a Feng Shui convention there, and then about Feng Shui, and that's how I bumped into the business of Feng Shui. So now it's really like finding meaning in terms of this adversity. There's so many things that I have to go through, like why Feng Shui? How can you even franchise Feng Shui in this country? Philippines was, you know, a Catholic country. And how could you bring that, getting through that stage in my life? And I'm not sure if you remember that there was this time that Chris Aquino launched the movie Feng Shui, and it was like the scary movie. So I had to get through and navigate as well, because during that time I had to open my first flagship store, which, by the way, that was 15 years ago. So now we're still here, so maybe we're doing something right. And then I also managed to get to date the only certificate for the International Feng Shui Convention, being one of the legitimate masters of Feng Shui in the country. So this is now my family. We have added another one to the brood, that's Nikki. She's now 17. And then the 3 now are all in England. And then one of the adversity I have to go through was when my husband told me, honey, we have to move to England. I said, why? I'm now at the peak of my career. How could I ever leave this country? My shops are doing well. My Feng Shui profession is doing so well. And he said the 3 kids need British citizenship. And, you know, they're going to be turning 18. We must leave next month. And it was like another adversity into my life. So anyway, I went to England. It was like very painful for me. But, you know, you have to care for your family. That's why, you know, the theme caring and sharing is very important. So true enough, now the kids have grown a lot better and wiser. The eldest one, now Kirk, has his own business. Kevin is the data scientist for Guinness World of Records in London. The 3rd daughter now, Shannon, is finishing her medicine. And now Nikki is here finishing her IB. So this is my life story. And I think, like what I said, I'd like to relate also to my previous mentor, my very good friend, the late Washington Sisip. When I was starting the business in the Philippines, and then after 5 years, he said, Marites, you know what? You'd been signing autograph, which is not your book. You had been promoting a brand, which is not your brand. Why don't you create your own? So this is what led me to create Friga. So this is one of the products that I created. I have now been able to write books. People now, we have been shipping goods from about 16 countries. And of course, I have managed to write my own books, my almanacs, my planners. And in fact, it's now being digitalized. It's now available on iTunes and, of course, the Google Play and App Store. So all of this, my friends, is that really another milestone that, you know, you just have to go through it. No matter what the stars are saying to you. And then sometimes I also look back, like I get so tired. I said, don't I just need to have a break? Maybe, you know, rest in our place in El Nido, you know, wait for the sunrise and sunset. But looking back, I also wanted to do this, that, you know, it's important for us to make sure that we have to go through and care for our people. So thinking of the many families and my staff who depends on this, I'm sure that I can keep the business. I can still do it with a lot of hard work and determination, and of course resilience, which is, in fact, I always show the bamboo tree. Because just like us Filipinos, just like our country, we had been through a lot. And whenever the storm, whenever the wind blows to the bamboo, after the storm, it goes back again. So this is what I'd like to impart to everybody, that in every adversity, of course, there is always an opportunity there. So I would like to say more, but I think my time is up. So thank you so much to everybody for listening.